Pesachim, and we have base. Comments of a Gentile over which Pesach has passed, deriving benefits from it, is permitted, but comments of a Jew deriving benefits from it is forbidden, since it is said, "No, nor shall you leaven be seen with you." If a Gentile lent money to a Jew on his comments, then after Pesach, deriving benefits from it is permitted. But if a Jew lent money to a Gentile on his comments, then after Pesach, deriving benefit from it is forbidden. If a ruin collapsed over chametz, it's regarded as removed, and Rav Gimel says, provided a dog cannot search it out. Anyone who eats truma of chametz on Pesach inadvertently must repay a kohen the principal plus a fifth. If he eats it deliberately, he is free from payment and from liability for its own value as fuel. Okay.
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 Elu
What would happen?
dvarim.
I'm sorry. What would happen today if someone ate their truma inadvertently? There's no kohen. Go
Right.
back to
So if somebody, so let's say somebody went ahead and took their stuff from the garden and they separated masos and trumas and forgot to dispose of the truma, and then somebody went and ate the truma portion.
him.
Okay, so then what he's going to have to do is he's going to have to take some chulin, replace it plus a fifth, and say harezi truma tomorrow,
Right.
she'achalti, and
Right.
then dispose of the truma the same way you're going to dispose of the original truma.
All right. I just wanted to get that straight up here. Okay.
Okay. Mishnah Hey, Elu Dvarim Shadam Yotze Behen Yedei Chovas over Pesach. Okay, so now we're now talking about the mitzvah of matzah. What are the things that you can make matzah out of? And as we know, chitim, seorim, kusmik, shifon, shibolas, shual. So that's wheat, barley, spelt, rye, and oats. That's typically what we agree on is are the five grains that you can make matzah on. And as we learned in Maseches Challah, that's these are the things that also make you chayiv in Tekel Challah. They're what are any other specific things? Oh yeah, we're talking about in Nadarim. If somebody swears off Dagan, then it's these things. Um, so they're all kind of grouped together in this respect. By the way, there are some people who argue that shibolet shu'al is something other than oats,
Uh,
but generally the psak is that we're talking about oats. Okay, yotzin b'demai. So if you have some one of these grains that comes from demai, in other words, it was purchased from an amaretz, and we're not sure if he took trumas maser.
mhm.
Nonetheless, you yotze on it because we already have a principle from Demai that there are certain categories of people that you're allowed to feed Demai to. Poor people, an army. Uh, so you're allowed. So once you have that principle that some people are allowed to eat it, therefore. Even if somebody who's not from one of those categories ate it on Pesach, we say, okay, you're yotze. You don't have to have another kazayas. Okay. Uva mase rishon shenitla trumaso. Okay, well, this is 100% mutar. If it was mase rishon where the trumas mase was taken off, and that's mutar. Lechatchila. We mention these things just because we're going to mention the opposites later. Mase sheni vehekte sheniftu. They were redeemed, and now you're allowed to eat them. Vakonim b'chala v'truma. So kohanim are even allowed to make matzah out of challah and truma, and they can eat it, even though no Yisraelim are allowed to eat it. Nonetheless, they can be yotzei with that on Pesach. Aval lo b'tevel. If somebody made a matzah out of untithed produce, maaser rishon shelo nitla truma, so it's still got the truma portion inside it. Lo b'maaser sheni v'hekdesh shelo niftu. And maaser sheni outside of Yerushalayim, we're talking about.
All
Um,
right.
I think if you bought Maaseh Sheni, if you came to Yerushalayim for Pesach with your Maaseh Sheni produce, and you made matzah out of the Maaseh Sheni, I think that would be perfectly legit. It's certainly no worse than a Kohen eating truma. But we're talking about outside of Yerushalayim. It was the original Maaseh Sheni produce that has not been redeemed and may not be eaten outside of Yerushalayim. Chalos toda rukike nazir. Um, if somebody came and with your um, for the korban toda, you have a whole bunch of different types of bread that come with it. Uh,
Okay.
and he made now this is an interesting thing because generally you don't bring a korban todah on Pesach because it's got chametz involved.
Oh,
But let's say if somebody made these if somebody baked some chalos for his korban todah that he was going to bring, let's say after Pesach. Matzah keeps a while, so
yeah.
he's already getting busy baking stuff, and this was going to be for his korban todah. No, you can't use those; they've been designated for a korban. So okay. Asan le'atzmo ein yotzin b'hem. If he made them for himself, then he cannot be yotzin because they've been designated for the korban. Asan limkor b'shuk. But yeah, let's say he made them as he's a baker, making korban grade stuff to sell in the marketplace for people who want to bring a korban toda, and he did that like a couple of days before Pesach, and nobody bought his produce. Say, well, I mean, chaval to let all of this lovely matzah go to waste. Um, I want to be yotze on this, and he can because when a person is a merchant in the marketplace, he makes a t'nai on it that if nobody buys it, then he'll be able to eat it himself. Okay. Vav, elu yirakos she'adam yotze bahen yedei chovas Pesach. Now we're talking about maror. Okay, what vegetables can you eat for maror? Okay, and we have a lot of names in Hebrew, which I'm going to ask you to give the Art Scroll translation in a minute. Chazeres, Ulshin, Tamcha, Char, Chavina, and Maror. Okay, what are they translated as?
Aquafina, I see. It says horseradish.
Uh-huh.
No, no, that's wrong. I'm sorry. It says later authorities confirm that this is crane, horseradish. Then it says, and with cargavina, a type of vine growing around palms. Identifies as some type of a thistle. Uh, that's what it says. Okay, all right.
Okay. Um,
Mara,
so all of these there are five species mentioned here. Just tell me what the Art Scroll calls them.
we have endives, horseradish, cargavina, and Mara, right? And lettuce.
And
Yeah,
lettuce, yes.
yeah.
Okay. Yotzin bein lachin bein yiveshin. It doesn't matter whether they're fresh or dry. Aval lo kvushin. You cannot have them once they've been pickled. V'lo shlukin, not cooked. V'lo mevushalin, not stewed and not cooked. Mitzdarfin lekazayis. And if you've got half a kazayis of lettuce and half a kazayis of grain, you can add them together. Okay. The in bekelach shelahen. And for the lettuce, it doesn't matter whether you're having leaves or stalks, they all count. Ubedemai. Once again, just like with matzah, you can have, if somebody ate demai for their maror, it's the yotze umase rishon shenit la truma sova mase sheni vehekdeshin. If the same thing as before, there's no kedusha attaching to these things once they've been redeemed or once they've been had their truma separated from them, and therefore you yotze on them. Okay. Ein shorin esa morsan letarnagolim. Now, if you've got bran and you want to feed it to your chickens, apparently the standard practice is to soak them a little bit so that the chickens can eat them more easily. That you're not allowed to do on Pesach. Aval choltin. Apparently, what you're allowed to do is scald them. Right, that's so you quickly put it into boiling water because from the heat it cooks quickly and therefore it doesn't become chametz. Ha'isha lo tishrei es hamor sanche tolich lebiyad elam merchatz. It's apparently also a skin balm where you take the bran and put it onto your arms and make your skin soft. Okay, or l'shafshef, sorry, beg your pardon, to use it as a kind of a exfoliant.
Yeah, see me rub it on her to keep her skin. I rub it on her dry skin.
Right.
Right.
Okay. Aval shafa hi bivsari yavesh, but she can take it and rub it on her skin dry. Okay, so that's acceptable because we're not worried about her sweat from her arms making it into chametz. Lo yil'os adam chitin v'yaniach al makas of a pesach. And similarly, there's another home remedy where you take wheat kernels and chew them and stick them on a wound to help them to heal. Because that also makes them ferment and become chametz.
Right.
All right.
Erevin.
Erevin Yud Gimel.
Okay. Gimel. If one was reading a book of scripture on the threshold and the book rolls from his hand, he may roll it to himself. If he was reading on top of the roof and the book rolled from his hand, as long as it has not reached to 10 tefachim from the ground, he may roll it to himself. If one has reached 10 tefachim, he should turn it over on its writing. If Yehuda says, even if it only is removed from the ground by the width of a needle, he may roll it to himself. Reb Shimon says, even on the very ground, he may roll it to himself, for no rabbinically grounded prohibited matter may stand in the way of the Holy Scripture. A ledge which is in front of a window, one may put onto it and take from it on Shabbos. A person may stand in a private domain and move objects in a public domain, or a public domain and move objects in a private domain, provided he does not take them beyond 4 amma. A person may not stand in a private domain and urinate in a public domain, or in a public domain and urinate in a private domain. Similarly, he may not expectorate. Maybe Yehuda says, even when one's saliva has become detached in his mouth, he may not walk 4 cubits until he expectorates. Okay. So one more, right? One more.
No.
No? Okay.
Shabbos now. Yeah.
All right. All right. Shabbos. Okay. Kaf Gimel Dalet. We may await nightfall at Shabbat boundary to attend to the affairs of a bride or to the affairs of the deceased, to bring a coffin and shrouds for him. If a Gentile bore flutes on the Sabbath, he may not be well with them unless they came from a nearby place. If they made a coffin for him or dug a grave for him, a Jew may be interred in it. But if it was done for a Jew, he may never be interred in it. We may attend to all the necessity of the deceased. We may anoint and rinse him, provided that we do not move any of his limbs. We may pull the pillow from under him and lay him on the sand. In order that his body keep, we may bind up the jaw so that it should not close, but it should not remain open any further. So too with a beam that broke, we may support it with a bench or side pieces of a bed, not that it should be raised, but it should not sag any further. We may not close the eyes of the dead on the Sabbath, nor may we do so on a weekday at the moment of death, for whoever closes the eyes of a dying person at the moment of death is a murderer. If darkness overtakes a person on the road, he may give his purse to a Gentile. If no Gentile is with him, he may place it on a donkey. When one reaches the outermost courtyard, he may remove those objects that may be handled on Shabbos, and as for those that may not be handled, he may untie the ropes, allow the sacks to fall by themselves.
Okay.
Okay. I think well, we're going to what are we going to next? Let me see. I'm sorry. Sorry, everything again.
Yep.
Okay, from the beginning. Okay. Let me put this back in the right place. Okay. Meister Shady. Okay. Dollar base. Meister Shady may be redeemed at the cheap price, but if the shopkeeper buys and not as he sells, at the rate of the money chamber accepts small change, and not at the rate he provides small change. Meister Shady may not be redeemed in a lump. If its price is known, it may be redeemed according to the valuation of its one witness. And if its value is not known, it must be redeemed according to the valuation of 3. As, for instance, wine that has formed a film, produce that has gone bad, and coins that have rusted. But the owner said for a seller, and another said for a seller, the owner has precedence because he adds a fifth. If the owner says for a seller, and another says for a seller, and an issa, that of a seller and an initiative has precedence because it adds to the principal. If one redeems his own Meister Sheni, he must add a fifth to it, whether it is his or was given to him as a present. One may act cunningly regarding Meister Sheni. How so? A man says to his son or daughter who are of age, or to his Hebrew manservant or maidservant, here is the money, redeem for yourself this Meister Sheni. But he may not say to his son or daughter who are minors, or to his Canaanite manservant or maidservant, because the hand it is his hand.
Okay.
Nida. A girl who produced 2 hairs can perform either Kalitza or Yubim, and she is obligated in all the commandments stated in the Torah. Similarly, a boy who had produced 2 hairs is obligated in all the commandments stated in the Torah. He's eligible to be Ansar Amar from the time he reduces 2 hairs until the beard grows around, which refers to the lower beard, not the upper one, for the sages spoke euphemistically. A girl who produced 2 hairs cannot perform Miyun, Yehuda says, unless the black appears abundant. 2 hairs that are stated regarding the red cow, regarding Sar's fictions, and those stated elsewhere, must be long enough to bend their top to their root. These are the words of Rabbi Shmuel. If Elata says long enough to be caught by a fingernail, Akiva says long enough to be moved with scissors. A woman who finds a stain is impaired, and she must be concerned for her ziva. These are the words of Ramea, and the Chachamim say stains are not something to concern ziva. Yeah. I saw an article in the paper. I don't think I saved it. I wanted to show you. It was about I think it was 3 or 4 red heifers were born. They had their vicinity. I think it's in the United States.
Hmm.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
See what they're going to do with them.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, Bekoros, the above Aleph. On account of the following blemishes, a Bakor may be slaughtered if its ear is notched in the cartilage, not in the skin, or if it's slit through, nothing is missing, or it has a hole as big as a vetch, or it has dried up. What is considered dried up? Anything that, if punctured, does not emit a drop of blood. Yosef ben Meshulam says it is also dry that it crumbles. An eyelid that is punctured, not just slit, and there is a cataract in its eyes, or a comingling, or a snail-shaped snake-like growth, or a berry-shaped growth. What is comingling? The white breaks through the ring and breaks the black, enters the black. If the comingling is in the black and enters the white, it's not a blemish, for there are no blemishes in the white. White flecks of water are that are permanent. White are permanent white flecks. Any that remained 8 days. Rachanina ben Atikanel says we examine it a few times within 80 days. What is permanent water? If it ate fresh and dry fodder from a rain-watered field, but if it ate fresh and dry fodder from an irrigated field, or if it ate dry fodder from afterward, a fresh fodder is not considered a flemish unless it's dry after the flesh. After it eats the dry after the fresh.
Okay.
And gets it. Okay. The Gimel Dalet. But Elisha ben Parta said 3 things before the sages, and they confirmed his words. Concerning the people of the city besieged by an army, and those in the ships tossed at sea, and one who goes to be tried, they are presumed to be alive. But concerning the people in the city captured by an army, and those in the ship lost at sea, and one who goes to be executed, the stringencies of living and the stringency of the dead are applied to them. The daughter of a non-Kohen married to a Kohen, and the daughter of a Kohen married to a non-Kohen may not eat of Truma. One who was bringing a get with an heir to Shelah and became ill may send it with another. But if he had said to him, take from her such and such a thing from me, he may not send it with another, for he does not want his deposit to be in the hands of another. If one was bringing a get from overseas and became ill, the court appoints another and sends him, and he says before them, it was written in my presence, and he signed it in my presence. The latter agent need not say it was written in my presence and signed in my presence. Rather, he says, I am an agent of the court. Okay.
Okay. And we're
Have
done.
a great trip. Enjoy. I will see
Very
you
much. And see you in your
Thursday.
on Friday morning.
Friday morning instead. Okay, great.
Okay.
Enjoy. Okay,
Thank
be
you.
well. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.